to talk about this. We're not prepared to sign this. I just want you to understand that. I feel like the idea of conference is for us to get together and try to work out an issue. So this conference report does not reflect a worked out issue. So I wanted to get together with y'all and talk about that. We kind of brought forward some ideas that we had as well, and we'd like to express those to y'all. That way we can talk about this. And then also we'll hear any concerns and any ideas that y'all have. I think that's the way the conference committee process is supposed to work. So we'll start with that point. And this is just an extra that I drew up, and I'll kind of hand that down to y'all. But at this point, I'll allow either y'all can speak, or Senator Hill, Senator Parker.
That's your concern.
Like Storm.
Yeah. I would just like to say that we felt like the amendment that we put in the bill was supported by the entire Senate, and we had passed the bill earlier unanimously, and that, it died in the House without any consideration. So I just took the opportunity to amend this bill because it was a similar issue, dealt with animals. And we would just like the opportunity for this bill to stay alive, this attachment to stay alive, to get to the House floor, to at least let the House members have the opportunity to see it and vote on it. So that's kind of where we are on that.
I did not have anything to that. One House member came and asked me, the chairman would bring it out if I would fill him to, and I just popped off and said, I'm not, no. Didn't mean anything by that. That was the chairman of Judge B's decision. He had his reasons. I'm not against the budget law. My only problem is with our House rules, this makes it a point of order. I'm afraid the whole thing will die. There'll be somebody to make a point of order. And I think the hard part is, so when we've had almost 400 hogs transported, I know for a fact that people are transporting them, turning them loose again for sport, and they cause a tremendous amount of damage all over the state of Mississippi, and they're just growing unbelievably fast. That's my concern, that I want this to stay alive. I have no problem with the budget law. That's not mine. I'm chairman of Judge B. He said he would be happy to sit down with you early next year to work up budget law, and we would bring it out. Personal reasons we didn't, and I won't go into that. I know, but he said that he would work with you if we can keep this bill alive, and I'll back you up on that. And I'll talk to him with you to get you something that would protect his children with Buddy's law. If that would help you to move this along. I see the damage it's done by the hogs. I've got hog hunters around me. They transport them in the middle of the night, turn them loose. I've had them turn them loose on my place. One year I planted 22 acres of corn one day, went back the next day to move my planter. Every seed in that 22 acres was sucked out of the ground. I had to replant that whole field. And that's just one instance. If you move into the Delta, where they got huge crops, they shoot, they trap, they do everything they can to control them, but we still got the sportsmen who think it's a sport. The move these hogs and some of the once you hog, it's a whole lot harder to catch them the second time. And that's my concern, is keeping this alive, trying to stop this permit or to be moved.
I wouldn't interrupt you.
Go
And I will echo your sentiment on that. I'm from a rural area myself. I've seen firsthand the damage of hogs, and I had the same exact bill 2 years ago that made it unanimous through the Senate, went to the House floor and died. And I was terribly upset with that. And for a multitude of reasons, that bill died. So no one can say that I am not in support of eliminating the transportation of hogs, and I do feel that that is a strong economical, viable reason that we need to keep this bill alive. But we also feel like Buddy's Law is super important to this issue. We feel like this is something that can't wait. This is a problem. Buddy's Law, the accident happened in Tate County where I represent. There was a tremendous amount of uproar and outrage within the community about this bill, and a lot of that was unfairly directed at our sheriff. He had no legal grounds to do anything. We were trying to give them ways to get around, to be able to address the issue. We're trying to find ways to help these children at an earlier age before this turns into a more serious crime of an actual person. Buddy's Law is important, just as important as this. And, you know, I hear you mention the point of order. You say that it's a possibility that there's a point of order raised. Does that mean that there is a point of order that's going to be raised, or?
It's subject to, and I think I know one man that's gonna raise that point of order.
Will the point of order?
He was a lot responsible for the bill 2 years back.
So he is in favor of killing the hog elimination at the expense of Buddy's Law, or is he against Buddy's Law as well? So he appreciates the fact that hogs can be transported live and create economic distress and, okay. Sure.
And, you know, up in our areas, Senator Whaley mentioned it's been in Jackson media, you know, we get our Jackson media. We don't always get the Memphis media, but it's been very important up in the area where Neil and I are, particularly. I know Tom Dees, Fox 13 has covered this extensively. And, you know, again, my big concern is that we now have an identified instance where someone has been shown to have made a depraved act against an animal and then carried that on and use that same act against individuals, you know, and we have that, and you know, and so as I weigh the two issues themselves, you know, in my balance of the issues, I kind of lean more towards Buddy's Law being the larger of the two issues and the one that I'm, you know, more concerned about, you know, and so just from my perspective on it, you know, in our chamber, as I weigh that, I would prefer to take the chance of getting Buddy's Law passed and getting it up for a vote. And even if we, you know, somebody could raise a point in our chamber too, our rules, of course, are different than the House rules, you know, and if we lose it, you know, to your point, maybe we come back next year and we can pass both of them, you know, but of the two, as I'm deciding, okay, you know, where does my primary concern kind of lie? You know, I shift my balance more towards the importance of Buddy's Law over the hog issue. And that's not to say they're not both equally important issues, but I'd love to see an opportunity to get both of them addressed. So, you know, I think we probably all in this room have the same sentiment to some degree, you know, but unfortunately, you know, in passing bills, you know, things can't ever be that simple. You know, things, you know, have to be a little more complicated. So I just appreciate everybody being here so we can talk about it and see if we can work out something on it, because it is a challenge. And, you know, and I appreciate the chairman coming and talking it out. I think it's very worthwhile for us to do so.
I like that.
February 2020 legislation that allowed us to create a new wildlife program. Well, it is legal. Of animals.
Appreciate your input. I'm dealing with an issue right now that is basically a rule in another agency through the Administrative Procedures Act that basically is enforced as if it were law and statute on the book. So my question is, if agencies can rule make like you just described, I feel like that we could do some more and put some more teeth in this through rulemaking if we were to lose this bill. So what I'm saying is, I believe that you could extend what you're doing and even make it stronger through the Administrative Procedures Act if this bill were to fail. Do you see that as a possibility? Yes, I'm speaking of Wildlife Fisheries and Parks would have that authority, and this is the chairman sitting by me of Wildlife Fisheries and Parks. So what I'm saying is, this is not the only alternative for wild hogs. Agencies use the Administrative Procedures Act all the time through public comment, and I feel like that that is definitely a way also to address this issue outside of statutory regulations.
And look, man, I'm gonna echo this again. Both of these issues are very important to me. Of the utmost importance. Like I said, the case in which Buddy's Law came forward came from the county in which I represent. I felt like my sheriff was treated very unfairly over this issue. He wanted to be able to help and do something, and he just simply wasn't able to. So we're trying to find a way to bring that about. And also with the hog damage, I've dealt with that for years at home. I have farmers that deal with it. So it's important to me. Like I said, I brought the bill forward 2 years ago. We passed it out unanimously and was on its way to having a good shot in the House. Something happened and we lost it. I hate it, but I want an opportunity for us to try to work together on this to try to find ways without having to wait until next year.
Question.
Yes, sir.
You said your sheriff didn't have, the means to, I don't understand what we're saying. He didn't have the law on his side to prosecute, or?
Because he was a child.
Okay, so the minor is what. But wouldn't, all right, the one. Wouldn't a judge, regardless of a child or whatever, can't he make a ruling?
What this was a matter of youth court, and youth court records are sealed. So the public will never have any idea if the child got any help or treatment or was sent to Oakley or whatever. And so the outpouring to the legislature was to create something in the youth court statute so that whether the records were sealed or not, if a child became adjudicated delinquent of that serious of type of crime against a cat or a dog, that we knew based on statute that child was going to get some help. Whether we could look into the youth court records or not, if we had something in statute that we knew that child's mental needs were going to be addressed. And my youth court judge actually wrote this portion of the statute because she has seen a tremendous increase in her courts of children of a young age, even 7 years old and 8 years old, putting cats and little dogs and puppies in microwaves, turning them on and just doing all kind of heinous acts toward children. And so we wanted to make it uniform across the state. And this was her suggestion with her consultation with some other youth court judges. She's also a county court judge. So she sees people too, once they get into the county court. So that was a suggestion rather than, mandatory detention, was to get them some help. And she felt like, the evaluation by a trained medical doctor that treats mental illness was the way to go. And so that's how we arrived at the language that we have with the youth court judge's input. Because if it's under 13, the sheriff could not prosecute.
Issue into a animal control.
This basically is a related issue. And when I drafted the amendment, I asked council if it was germane. And I was given the go ahead to do it. I understand that House can call points of order, but I can also tell you that I've seen numerous bills that the House drafted and added code sections to that passed into law. This is not the first rodeo that I've ever seen a code section added in a House bill. And I don't want anybody to pretend like it is, because it's not. Yeah.
Go ahead.
We're bringing two important issues together in one vehicle.
Is there a way that your amendment was, and I've read over briefly, is there a way that, is there anything else live, or we can address that in another?
I don't think, I have not found anything that is alive, but if you find something that is alive, I'm more than willing to work with you on it. But the point I made earlier is my youth court judges don't have any way to do anything through the Administrative Procedures Act to address this problem. Their only way to address it is through statute. So with the wild hog problem, I do believe we could address it through Administrative Procedures Act in some shape, form, or fashion to strengthen that law, because strengthen that program, because I do believe it is a serious problem. I have wild hogs on my own property.
My understanding with them. That's the center. I tried to pass the same thing in the House and didn't pass it in 2015.
Right.
It's been tried and tried.
And I think that the reason why we keep trying and trying and trying is because it's super important. And that's something that I don't want to lose sight of. I want it to be known that it is super important. And, we're mentioning Judd B, Judd A issues. I don't know what it is. I know it is an issue, and it's one that I've got before me that I'm trying to work out and fix. I've heard you say that you have talked with your Judd B chairman. I will go and talk with my Judd B chairman, and I will go talk with your Judd B chairman. But I think that this opportunity is immensely important, and I don't see a reason why we should wait until next year. I have a problem, and I come from the business world just like many of you do. And if we simply wait until next year repeatedly, like we do down here so often, things never happen and they never get done. And I'm not willing to wait until next year. I'm trying to get it done this year. I think that this is that important and it needs to be done. So I'm going to go back to work and see if I can find another avenue. I think I'm getting the vibe right now that we're not going to come up with anything today. And I understand that, and that's fine. We've still got a few days. We've got an opportunity to meet again, and I hope that we can.
I think three of us need to meet with our council.
Okay, I understand that,
And we'll come back again.
and I appreciate
I'm not
that.
against either one of them.
No, I mean, I'm not against either
And-
one of them.
And I promise you, I'm not insinuating that y'all are. I promise you, I'm not.
I just don't want to lose it on the floor again. If we lose this again in the House, it's gonna go on, but we've lost it several times.
So I guess that's the one thing that concerns me on it is that if we have the primary bill and the concern is we might lose it again on the House floor. But we're not willing to put Buddy's law in there because we're worried that we might lose it on the House floor anyway. Or are we not just, we've got the same risk either way. And I'd rather, maybe we might have some people who are against the hog portion of the bill, who feel compelled enough about Buddy's law part of the bill that they might give it a better chance of passing as they weigh the two issues in it. And, to Chairman Bound's point, every year I see bills pop up in rules and I think, how in the world is this a rules bill? I mean, this ought to be a Judd A bill or Judd B, but we kind of move on past that. And I see this one as, it's a crossover. I mean, it touches wildlife and it touches, sentencing, but at the end of the day, I always say, if you consider the lowest common denominator first, and on this, I think it's the risk to, in this case, other children from a child who doesn't get help from something we know could potentially become a problem. I just feel that, it's one of those things that I would love to see us get some action on. And if it fails, yeah, we come back, but, I'd love to at least give it a chance.
Kristen, I know we talked about this. I really think we had a lot of this down on the farm. Just to ask if this could be done. All again, y'all would not have the authority.
Well, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna follow up and make sure that that is still correct, and we'll find that out for sure by the time we have our next meeting.
I will say. If we bought this field for a house, and it's called for point of order, code section, like the name of the deal. At that point.
I guess we'd have to wait and see where we are when that happens, but I would hope that it wouldn't happen. Right. Well, I think that if that happens, if the situation was that they were simply using Buddy's law as a cover because they didn't want the hog bill, and then theoretically you came back with the hog bill, they would still be against it, so they would lose their cover on both issues. So I would expect that a member would be much smarter than to do something like that out of spite. So
I would say, Mr. Chairman, I would prefer to give it a chance. And, if something happens like that, we can look at it and see, I think this is just me speaking. I would much prefer to give it a chance, and do that instead of letting it die in the conference committee stage.
I wanted to go back to your conversation, Representative Pygott. You said with Chairman Bain about the bill initially dying in Judd B, that it was a personal issue. Is that what I heard you say? Mhm. Okay.
Couple of the stickers in that thing. I just went to him and asked.
And I would have been,
Said, "But
I would have been more than happy. I tried to talk to the chairman. I texted him. I caught him in the hall. I texted the speaker. I tried to talk to everybody before the original bill died, and the only explanation I got was it's above my head. So I don't know what that means. So, you know, we need to talk. I mean, and it doesn't need to be in passing in the hallway and trying to track somebody down. And I appreciate you doing that, Bill. I truly do.
I would like Senator to see what he could, outlet would be. It might interfere, but I think now he seeing maybe a little different light. I don't want to speak for him now.
I understand. I understand. And I just want to reiterate how there's been such a public outcry for this bill. And I think that if we work hard, really hard, we can probably amongst us figure out a way to do what we all need to do. So
Let us get together. When we
Y'all meet, y'all get together, figure out what y'all need to do. Y'all let us know and we'll coordinate and work it out.
I want to say one thing, and I understand the importance and greatness of those issues. I really do. In regard to the hog issue, I had Bill die, you had. So we came up with keeping the code section alive through the session. Standalone issue to address the hog issue. That's how we got to here. And it's fell on the house every time. The house killed it when I. That's on us. That's on us, but that's why we
Well,
attacked this procedure just to keep the code section.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I would say this, and you know, I'm not much for wanting to point fingers and call out and say, well, the house did this, the house did that. It died and it happened, and I understand that. But I think that what we can take away from that was when it was a standalone bill, it was unsuccessful. It was unsuccessful twice. Let's sit back and let's think and let's talk about the possibility of giving this bill, this hog bill, a shot in the arm with an issue that is extremely important. And let's see if we can come together and think this could get us over the finish line. I think it's worth the discussion, and, you know, I appreciate y'all going back and discussing that and talking about it. I really do. I don't know how many times I can say it, but I mean it every time I say it. So let's get back together soon. Thank y'all.
Thank y'all.